Mute that. Good. Fantastic. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me on In Review this week. Today is the 5th of August, 2021. Thank you so much for those on Instagram. Hey, Junior, Jamaica Diaspora Magazine. Welcome. Those on Instagram, Facebook. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining in this week, this exciting week. And with my good friends, we're going to look at some key topics again. Of course, as I said, the topics are normally chosen by persons and we give our perspective. And without further ado, let me bring in both Anthony and Gary. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
We're good.
Good to see you again, Snowball.
I like that. When they say we good, it's all like we free, we free, you free, we all free.
We don't need anybody to tell us that we have freedom, man.
I say that as my segue, whereby, when I hear everybody talking about get your freedom, and I said to myself, okay, I do understand the principle, but do they understand what they mean by that? Do they understand what it means to put conditions on freedom at this time? And I do understand the reason, I understand the rationale about it, but do they understand why? And then when it was July the 19th, then I think of June the 19th as well. June 19th in America and July the 19th. Does that make sense? Everybody's trying to link something, guys?
Maybe.
Gary?
As a black man, nobody can hold us down, we run things, man. We run things.
I like how you say we run things because with the Olympics, the Jamaican beat the guy who was the holder of record there and running things, and with the whole Olympics now, which is really fantastic. As a matter of fact, talking about the Olympics, let's go straight in there because, Anthony, it seems like the British athletes have been doing well. Britain is doing well with the Olympics at this time.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's been a fantastic advertisement, and I'm really pleased that despite all the criticism, that the Olympics has gone ahead. I know, Tokyo has had a lot of problems. Japan's had a lot of problems. It is Japan has had problems with the COVID situation out there. But I think, their attempt to get the games on, they've had no fans in the stadiums in order to try and provide a safe environment. But the actual athletics itself, both on track and field, has been absolutely fantastic. And credit to all of the British participants, right down to yesterday, I think it was day before yesterday, Sky, the young skateboarder who has come back with a bronze medal at 13. These are the individuals who are going to be inspiring the next generation, and I think it's really fantastic that you've got these youngsters now coming forward and really leading by example and showing how important it is to actually be involved in sport and getting more people involved in activities and particular types of activities that perhaps weren't that popular. We all know about the 100 meters. Everyone wants to see that, but now we're seeing skateboarding, we're seeing BMX riding. We're seeing a whole range of new activities and sports that have been brought in to this Olympics, and I think that's been really encouraging. And Britain have done fantastic so far.
Well, Anthony, you mentioned in your write-up, you said, is it opening a sort of new way for for more people to get involved with Olympics? So, Gary, are you going to get involved in some sort of sports?
Not at this age. Not at this age, my friend. I was never one really to get involved in any kind of sport, sad to say. I love football, one, and when I was in the US doing my studies and stuff, when I was much younger, I loved basketball. I played a little American football, but I love basketball. But I'm not a sports guy, to tell you the truth. Anybody who knows me would agree with me on that.
Well, I say to people many times that I'm a wagonist. I jump on the live when things are getting really excited. That the last minute, I get excited about it. But Dina Asher-Smith, she didn't really do that well. I think she had some injuries. She was a sort of poster girl for the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, she was the poster girl, and you know, it's only now we found out that apparently she had a hamstring problem. I think sometime back in March, April time. So she's been recovering privately. She had surgery apparently in somewhere in Europe. I think it was Germany, and I believe she said that she was given like a 5% chance of actually competing in the games. So the fact that this afternoon she ran the third leg of the 4x100 relay and actually, you know, brought the team, enabled the team to actually finish second and competing for the final tomorrow is a fantastic achievement. And I think, you know, given the fact that she knew she had this injury problem, you know, it was right that she didn't actually participate in the 200, and which I suppose we can now see the reason why she didn't do so well in the 100. So, you know, she may have been the poster girl, but at least, you know, she's actually still participating and giving her all for the team.
And she's somewhat a sense of inspiration at the same time to the ladies there. And I guess tomorrow is a big one with the 4x100, I think male and female. Of course, Garry, Jamaica is leading all the way, except that it has now spread, because is it that Usain Bolt set the standard where everybody was trying to catch him, but there's nobody now to catch Usain Bolt?
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody had to set the standard.
Yes.
And who better than Usain Bolt? I mean, you know, Jamaica is the only country in the world that the whole world fears in anything. Usain Bolt. You know, so Jamaica is setting the standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what Jamaica has done is, you know, because of Usain Bolt, and also the fact that Jamaica, as a small island country, has produced so many fantastic superstar athletes. You know, you've got Shelly-Ann Fraser, you've got the current 100 and 200 gold medalist Elaine Herrera, you've got Usain, you've got all of these, Asafa Powell back in the day. You know, I think what they have done, these athletes, they've actually pushed all of those individuals who are trying to get through in sport in Jamaica to actually a higher level, which is the reason why, you know, every time there's a games or something, they actually do so well, because the bar has been raised so high by Usain. And in order to compete and get to that level, everyone's got to push themselves, you know, more than the sort of normal that you would over here. I mean, let's face it, the UK haven't produced, apart from maybe Dina Asher, any sort of real medalist, whereas Jamaica just simply bashed them out in the 100, the 200, the 400. You know, they just keep coming.
Well, I think, I mean, to add to what Tonya said there, when you look at how Jamaica, or what happens within Jamaica itself when it comes to champs, because you know champs, you remember champs,
Silver, yeah. Garry, champs is like the national track meet in Jamaica.
Right. And with the amount of athletes that do so well in their home games there, then I'm not surprised that Jamaica could have had somebody like Usain Bolt. When you look at the UK, you may have very good athletes here, but the problem that we have in the UK, in my mind, and for me only, when you look at, for instance, football, who do they look to bring the teams to where they need to play at within the in the Premiership? They get people from Spain, from Italy, from France. So you see, they don't. Okay, another prime example again is swimming. If you look at what the Sports Council did, they gave how much millions to the rowers? Was it the rowers that they gave 27 million to?
Yeah.
And then when you look at someone who did what was the sport that young lady and young man did?
BMX.
Yes.
That's the one you wanted. That's the one you're planning to do. Yes.
They had. Yes. They didn't have anybody to sponsor them. Not even. They had to raise their own sponsorship. I mean, what's that about? I guarantee you by the next Olympics, right? BMX is gonna get probably 10 million to do that. I mean,
but interesting. Just one little before we move on. There's this gentleman named British boxer Ben Whittaker. He said something, and I find it very interesting. He said this. He said, "We all come for gold. We all come for gold. So I'm not going to celebrate a silver."
Yeah, well, I really take umbrage with this young man, and really, quite frankly, I think he's a complete disgrace, and to his sport, and also to the other athletes, because this was a young man who, when he was winning in the rounds, was giving it the big pose. He was really all that. He was Mr. Flash. Look at me, I'm going to be mayor of Wolverhampton and all this.
Yes.
The minute he
lost, with his bling bling,
yeah, he had all the bling, all the showboating. The minute he lost, what was the first thing he did? He didn't congratulate his opponent. He didn't say, come on TV and say, I gave it my best. He started to cry, ran off like a big baby, like he was, and basically just acted like a spoiled child his toys had just been taken away from him. And even when he was on the podium to try and receive his medal, he actually put the medal in his pocket and refused to lift his head. A complete disgrace. And if I was Team GB, I wouldn't even allow him back into the actual British boxing team again.
Yeah, I can see. Garry, what's your take? Look at him.
Yeah, I mean, I think again. Sorry for all those who, obviously, there are some athletes within the GB team and within the United Kingdom that are really trying their best to do their best for Queen and country and for their families. And so, I mean, that's one side. But then when you look at this young man, I think it shows also that there is a section of this community within, well, when I say community, you understand what I'm saying, of this community that cannot take losses. They have an attitude. And that is very much entrenched in our society today. There are young men and young women who do not think that they can come, second best or even get a medal or get a bronze medal. There's nothing wrong when you do that. There's nothing wrong. Yeah. Even the person who comes in last, right, is appreciated. Why? Yeah. Because they've tried.
And you're right, because many people said, and I've heard certain athletes at different times say, this is what they say: just to be here is an achievement, whether they got the goal or not. But guess what? In for Jamaican teams, out of the millions, out of the thousands of people who are trying, they actually make it to the Olympic. And they're saying in Jamaica, well, thank God for small blessings. You know what I'm trying to say? And even that, there's a girl which is Mabona. I think she won. She came third in the 200 meter, I believe. She's 18, right? And I guess the future is there for. Can you imagine? She says, "I don't want any bronze, man."
It was. I mean, we also had another British boxer who also won a bronze, I think, in the super heavy, and he was so graceful and gracious in defeat in actually getting his bronze. He was so appreciative of the opportunity and the support by his team and his coaches to actually get to the Olympics and also to get a bronze. And you saw him congratulate his opponent. This young man, Ben Whittaker, as maybe Garry has said, I don't know if it's a thing over here where we're teaching kids that they always have to win. We don't really tell them that they can lose. I don't know what it is, but it's a really bad attitude that he displayed. And as I say, if I was the British boxing board, I wouldn't actually have him back on the team.
Who do you think going to win the 4x100 for the ladies? Jamaica or Jamaica?
Jamaica.
I'd go with Jamaica.
Huh? and for the men, well, that was the ladies, and for the men,
I'd go with Jamaica.
You go with Jamaica. So Jamaica or Jamaica. Everybody said Jamaica. But Carl Lewis won't be so happy about that. Carl Lewis always said there's something in the food. And of course, I agree with Carl Lewis. It is Jamaica is in the food. That is what it is. Well, listen, moving on. this holiday period which we're on. Everybody's trying to go on holidays. David, who is normally resident to come on the show, he's on holidays. And I think I pose a question here. Is there any point in going on holidays this summer? Because people are just getting confused, man. And with the latest thing today, what do you say, Anthony? PM and Transport Secretary defend travel changes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if they gave warning, like at least a 7-day notice that there's going to be a change, at least people would have time to make new arrangements and to be able to reschedule. When you're already on holiday and then they tell you, actually, by the weekend, we're now going to change the system, that's when it really makes it almost impossible to really plan anything with any certainty. So I think the government have really been complete shambolic in the way they've operated their traffic light system, and I think really plus the need to have to get the PCR tests, and the cost of them, and also when you go to certain countries you may have to isolate. Is it really worth going? Personally, I would sit on the fence and maybe try and find some places in the UK I hadn't been to before. But it's certainly been made more difficult by all of the different stop-start that the government have been putting out there.
Garry, what's your plan? Travel? You ready to travel?
No, not yet. I mean,
because in space, you're in your space.
I mean, I'm already here, mate. I'm already here. I would go, for me personally, because the government is unsure of what is happening. Whether it be regionally, that is within within Europe or beyond the borders of Europe, I think that because they're unsure, I wouldn't waste my money to go anywhere at the moment. I'd love to go to the States, but I'm not going there yet because we don't know what's going to be happening within the next 24, 48. Even though they say that, they're willing to receive people who are vaccinated or got 2 vaccines or whatever, 2 jabs, whatever that is. I think it's quite, for me, I think I'll just bide my time. Just wait, just hold on a bit.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of people are buying their time, and America just announced, I believe Joe Biden is on track to make it mandatory for anyone traveling to America to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
And lots of countries are looking at that. So therefore, countries are set the standard. France is going on a full-on, and there's so many demonstrations which are happening, which we don't know. But at a glance, the latest change, moving from amber to green, there's Austria, Germany, Slovenia, Slovakia, Latvia, Romania, Norway, moving from red to amber, India, Bahrain, Qatar. And it says, and Mr. Shaps, who is the Transport Secretary, sought to reassure the British holiday makers that the traffic light system would now be reviewed every 3 weeks. There it is, Anthony, every 3 weeks. So there you're going on, ready for your holidays, and boom, it's been reviewed during the time that you're there.
Yeah, but like Garry has said, I think the uncertainty, the variants all over the place, the different procedures in different countries, it just makes it so difficult to plan. And also, when you go to these countries, the whole idea of a holiday is that you want to relax and actually enjoy yourself. I mean, I don't think you're able to really relax as you would like to when you're constantly, being bombarded by, this whole COVID situation. And also, you're having to wear masks everywhere. It just takes away the enjoyment of what you're going there for. So, like Garry, I'm gonna make it a pass for 2021, and I'll try again next year.
Interesting, as we're on the COVID there, because we didn't touch on it last week, but there's some developments whereby children are now being encouraged to be vaccinated. But there's also something else. When the question was put, what about the permission from the parents? And they're saying no. Well, let's clarify the age. I think it's from 16 to 17. And they're saying, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. 16 to 17, I believe they said there's no need for permission from parents. What do you think? Do you think this is setting the stage as it's going to drop and drop? They say 1 in 5 in the hospital also are young people.
Well, personally, very quickly, I would at least, for me personally, I would actually require the parent to give consent. I mean, you know, I don't think you should allow a 16-year-old to go ahead and make a decision that their parents aren't aware of purely because they want to try and encourage more children to take up the vaccine. So they're more or less saying, you know, you don't get your parents involved, just come and get it anyway.
Yes,
So
yes.
personally, if I was a parent of a 16 or 17-year-old, I would want to be informed first, and then I'd like to talk to my child about the different options rather than me put my opinion.
Yes.
I would then allow them to make their decision if they wanted to go ahead. I wouldn't actually just simply say to the 16 or 17-year-old, come along and get your vaccine. You don't have to tell your parents. I think that's the wrong way to go about it.
It is definitely a slippery slope with all of this, Garry, which is happening. When it comes on, they're talking about voting. They're talking about what do you call it, birth control, birth pills. Everything can be done over the counter now. And I mean, let me say this: in cases whereby a child who is 16, in terms of law, they call it Gillick competent. And if there's a situation where the parents are not being good carers and the local authority want the child to be accommodated, the parents may say no, but that child may say, give me the paper, I can sign it. They can by the time they speak to. So therefore, children at 16, they're afforded certain rights now, which is happening based on discussion on what is in the best interest. This is a term, the best interest of the child. But is it a sort of a slippery slope at the same time?
I do believe it is, but at the same time, I think we've got to look at the individual child, each person on their own merit. There are some 16, there are some 15-year-olds who are very, very mature in their thinking, in their outlook, and their thinkers. I have daughters. I have a son. I have one particular daughter. I would say that when she was that age, she was, all of them are intelligent and they may be listening. So I want to be able to go home tonight. No, but each individual has their own character. Yes. Anybody that has more than one child, anybody that has 2 or 5, each son or each daughter, each child has their own character. And let me say, probably there's one who, for me, who is she thinks deeply. She doesn't talk much. She never said much, but she knew what she wanted, and she was very, very articulate and very focused. Now, you've got some children who, at 15, 16, you couldn't even leave a cat in the room with them because you don't know what's going to happen to the cat. No, you can't. What I'm trying to say, they're very irresponsible. They're very childish, and they don't act their age, or they're very dangerous. They're not thoughtful of anybody. So when the law then says, well, makes a blanket statement to say, well, at the age of 16, you're able to make your own decisions. No, you're not. I would never say so. When I remember when I was in my 20s and I was still at home, my mom and my dad were still making decisions for me. But at the same, what I'm trying to say here is that it all depends on, to me, it all depends on the child, on the family, on the family dynamics, anything that is happening around the individuals. Yes. Because you can't look at one child and say
a blanket statement and all.
Yes, you can't do that. I think that is, that we are going down a very slippery slope.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love for you to answer that for those who are listening and those who are watching. If you got this point, what do you think about children not needing to get the parent consent? And I must clarify, from 16, 17 upwards. But based on how it is happening, I've heard in the grapevine that if parents also don't want to allow their children to be vaccinated. I think this is an overreach and overstretch where they said they're going to go into care, or social service may come knocking on your door because of what is in the best interest. Of course, there's lots of conspiracy and different things people are saying, but when I hear that, still, we're at a point where it's like a horse being broken. You keep riding the horse till it's broken, and then after a while you keep going down till you reach the point and say, how did we get here? And I think this is a slippery slope. A lot of civil liberties are being impacted at this time, and through the advent of COVID. You know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's move on there, because there's more things happening here, and organization minimum wage shaming. There's a massive shaming thing going on now. You know. Anthony, what is this? Why are they shaming these guys?
Well, I think what they're doing, and two of the big companies who have really come out and have been very vocal to avoid this happening to them was John Lewis and Tesco, because you know what they're really saying, what the government have been saying is you know, that there should be a minimum wage paid to all of their staff, and what they've done is they've now highlighted those organisations that aren't paying the legal minimum wage, and you know, companies like John Lewis have been found wanting. They don't like it, and as a consequence, they're rebelling back against the government, saying, you know, why have you put us in this league table? But I think what it is, it's a little bit like with the ethnic minorities and the diversity, you know, where we're saying, well, you know, show us the pay scales so that we can see where there's the anomalies. A bit like with the gender situation as well, where we had a few years ago, like when the BBC were found out for paying, you know, men and women who were doing the same job. Men were getting, you know, in some cases twice as much as some of their female co-presenters or co-workers. So in this shaming situation, I think what the government have done, that they simply just highlighted the organisations that aren't stepping up to the plate.
Garry, what's your take on it?
Well,
are you one of those companies?
No, not at all. But you see, the thing about it, my friends, is that these companies, all of these companies, and I'm sure that there are many more, they know exactly what they're doing. It's not that they're doing something and they say, oh, sorry, I'll make a correction, you know, next month. They know what they're doing. You let one of their employees scam them out of 10 pence. You'll never hear the end of it. As far as the employee is concerned,
yes,
I mean, they'll be sacked. They would be sacked. However, they do it to their employee, and oh, sorry, a little slap on the wrist. I mean, tell me, come on, guys. I think we're not that silly. We're not that silly. Whether it be John Lewis, whether it be the football clubs they know exactly what they're doing. You know what? Short-changing those who are trying to make a living.
Yes. And I think because of the furlough coming to an end eventually, one of the points they said is among those named was restaurant chain Pizza Hut, which, well, I contributed to them yesterday, you know. Failed to pay 10,980 workers the normal MMW minimum wage, totaling 845,936,000. I guess that is a shortfall. More than 100 companies, including some of the UK biggest household names. Where do you think this is coming from, Anthony, in a way? Because this has been talked about for a while. Is it that they're saying they can't bother to anymore to wait for these guys? Let's just shame them. Not that it's going to make a difference.
I think there is that, SYLBOURNE, but I think also, you know, what they're trying to do is to actually raise the minimum level that people get paid. I mean, you know, what they're trying. We all know that a number of these companies have organizations that they work with abroad, you know, typically India, where they're paying, you know, really crazy sort of minimum. It's not even minimum wage. It's a pittance. Nike got caught out with it not too long ago. You know, where they found out that they were, you know, they had all these sweatshops. And I think what they're trying to do over here in the UK is say, look, the government, you know, this is just not good enough. You have to pay people the basic minimum wage. The minimum wage is this. and you should pay the basic minimum wage. And if they find that they've got individuals within their organizations who they're not paying that money to, they should pay them. And as Garry said, all these organizations know what they're paying their employees. They know it down to the last penny, right? So, you know, and we all know what a job stands for. JOB, just over broke. And they know, these organizations know.
Did you just know that, Garry?
I like that one. I like that one.
Right. So, you know, so these companies know what they're doing. And it's only when they get shamed like this that they're actually shamed into suddenly saying, oh, well, do a correction. They already know what they're paying their staff. Yeah. And we've seen with for example, the nurses, when the government offered that derisory, almost beggared belief, 1% after all the work they've done. They saved the Prime Minister's life. Everyone's clapping for them, you know, the big clap, right? And then what do we give them? We give them 1%. I mean, it's almost like, you know, it beggars belief. So I think to be honest, the people who be shamed should be the government as well for paying their own employees a small amount when they're also shaming corporates.
Let me just say something here. That these companies, they are employing the big accounting companies to account for their finances. Yes. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of these companies, as we know with these football clubs, they're on the very brink of going bankrupt. That is why they do what they do. That is why a lot of these companies, again, every now and again, like ITN. Have you heard about ITN? Do you know what ITN is? Yeah, I'm sure you heard of that. There's a big hole in their pension funds. A lot of these companies, they will do whatever it takes to hold back on their funds. And who do they attack, or who do they touch? The little employees.
Yes.
That's what they do. And we, the public, we sit back and we relax and say, well, you know, we don't do anything. We use these platforms and we complain, but we never. I'm not advocating that we go on the streets, but I'm saying we don't let them hear.
Do you think that the government people have somewhat resigned to the power that they have given over? I know this is a segue away from maybe the topic, but just like what you said, do you think people have somewhat resigned to the government leading them whichever way they want to do?
Let me say this before Anthony. Let me get on my soapbox. Yes. Before Anthony says anything. Do you think that that the people in France would do what we do by just sit back? Look what they're doing. They go to the streets, mate. I'm not advocating that we do that, but what I'm saying is that when they're not happy, the people of France, they make a song and a dance about it until the government relents. What do we do? Answer that for yourself.
Anthony will answer it.
Yeah, and this is what Anthony's going to do. I'm going to join those in France. because Garry is exactly right. I mean, over here, sadly, when the government says jump, you know, all of a sudden we then say how high. We don't seem to actually retaliate back. I mean, I'm just reading one of the replies that Michelle has just put about someone's been told that the governor there has told the president he's not going to mandate the vaccine. I mean, for me, this is a sort of thing over here. We've been very compliant. We've actually done what the government have asked us to do. And unlike in France, like Garry has said, when we see organizations not paying us the correct minimum wage, when we see the government themselves not giving us the right pay, like for our NHS and other organizations, we don't actually collectively come together. The trade unions don't collectively come together and actually say, right, we're going to take everybody out, or we want the people to come on the street. We don't do anything. The only time we've ever seen anything like that is when we see events like the George Floyd thing, where there was a mass outpouring and everyone came out, and that made companies suddenly look up and suddenly go, you know what, we need to do something on diversity. Admittedly, it might be a short-lived knee-jerk reaction. You know, they might suddenly go and employ one black person, and then, you know, for the next year they don't do anything, but they suddenly go and do something. But at least, as Garry said, with France, they will now be on the street until Macron backs down and actually they get what they want.
And they take it through to the end. The staying power is there.
The staying power is there, mate. I mean, I mean, there's been demonstrations in France. There are demonstrations in Germany. We don't. The news people in or broadcasters in this country do not. Well, I won't say probably, but they do not broadcast what is happening anywhere that shows any kind of dissent, which affects our lifestyle here, because nobody here.
Yeah. So what you're actually saying then is, whether one agree with what people are doing and the demonstration, the news are not reflecting it. They're actually shutting one side of things down. They're not reflecting what is really happening.
Yeah, but you have to remember, SYLBOURNE, that the media companies, they basically they control what we see, what we read, how we react. And as Garry said, if they're not reporting on the sorts of rebellion or the sorts of things that are taking place in France and Germany, it's a little bit like, you know, we sometimes see people in other countries, you know, they sometimes show in dictatorships, like in China, or when they had the Hong Kong thing, they sort of might show some uprising there, but then they, you know, the caveat to that is, oh, this is a dictatorship, you know, whereas over here now, you know, they're not showing that what's going on. They don't want to report on that, because as Garry said, I think that the media organizations and outlets, they control the narrative in terms of what we see, what we do, what we read. And if we don't read anybody else who's actually standing up and being counted for, then we won't come out and stand up and be counted for. And we should, because as Michelle has said there, the power is with the people. And if we were to come out and say we don't want something, then guess what? The government would have to listen, and they would have to back down.
And this brings us straight to this point now. Should the police commissioner resign? Even though that's a different topic, but it's like, this is what you're talking about. Things just going on, and there's like no accountability to a certain extent. I was bringing that there, Anthony, to sort of link it to a certain way.
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of accountability, you've got the police commissioner over here in the UK, Cressida Dick, who's been mired in controversy over various scandals that have taken place over the last couple of years. You know, she has been in the spotlight for not handing over files, not providing data, not providing information when she's been asked to do so. She, you know, that her police force has been labelled institutionally corrupt. You know, and yet, you know, because we have a more or less an incompetent mayor over here as well, who is the person who could sack her if he wanted to, but he's not going to do it. In terms of Sadiq Khan, we have a police commissioner who simply has become Teflon, and it doesn't matter what her force does, she simply won't go. And you know, any other country, you know, she would by now would have had to fall on her sword out of principle or morals, but she's not going. I mean, I'm reading a story here. I think it was Daniel Morgan who actually was a recent case where, you know, again, her police force has been complicit in not helping, not providing any information, and she's still there. So, you know, if people came out on the street and said, we don't want this person anymore, guess what? She'd be gone, because the government would have to go, you know what, we don't want this, but we don't do anything. We just simply sit there and take it.
Garry, what do you think? It seems like it's at Houston, there's a problem here. You need to go into space, man. Houston, there's a problem. There's a serious problem here. You know what I mean?
Probably Chris. What's her name? Dick.
For the Dick. Don't go there.
No, I'm saying here, right? Probably Chris.
You're a man of the cloth. Don't go there.
No, I'm not going there. What I'm saying here, right, is that Crusader Dick, right? And Jeff Bezos and all of them probably should be put into SpaceX and blasted around the planet to stay up there. Because these people, right? And I'm a man of the cloth. Fine, I'm a minister of religion. And sometimes we have to call a spade, and we have to, in my mind, really begin. Again, I'm talking for myself. I'm not representing anybody but me, right?
I have a disclaimer I'm going to put up every time you say that. So that bit, I'm going to get a video of it and just put a disclaimer. I'm Garry. This is Garry.
But the thing about it, listen. Come on, guys. I think all of us, we have to look and see what's happening in this world, right? If the police departments around the country and in the world, right, they're ready to point fingers at us, you, me. They're ready to point fingers at us, destroy our lives, yes, handcuff us. They're ready to search our sons and our boys and even ourselves. The only reason why they don't bother us sometimes is because, what can a 50-year-old man do? A 50-year-old man can do much more damage than a 20 or 15 or 16-year-old boy. But they don't trouble us, do they? They don't really trouble us if we're 50 or 60. These are the very same powers that be, right? That they're ready to destroy our lives, but they get up and do what they do and still stay in the jobs that they're in. Nobody can touch them, as you've said. They're Teflon. From the Prime Minister's office all the way down. You get a black man in a position where they are, and they do half of what they've done. They've lost their job the next day. And we all know that. So the thing about it is that society, right down the middle, is as corrupt as it's corrupt. It's just corrupt, and I don't think things will ever get any better anyway.
In this lifetime. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm it's horrible. It's horrible, SYLBOURNE. It's horrible.
No, I think what Gary's saying there as well, SYLBOURNE, is that if Cressida Dick was black, I mean, don't forget we do have that black police officer, that lady who was quite a high level, who has been dismissed.
Exactly.
Because, she received an image which was not. It wasn't an image that she downloaded. It wasn't an image that had anything to do with her. She was in a WhatsApp group, and somebody sent her this image or this video, and as a consequence of it being seen by somebody else in that group, she lost her job, and she's now just actually won the right to have her job back. But would you believe it? The actual police force are now challenging if she can come back. Now, if that had been white, as Garry is saying, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't even have got taken off in the first place.
Would have just assimilated back in easily, if anything.
Easy. I mean, look at that cricketer the other day who just started his career and was and took a few wickets, and everyone was saying what a great guy he was on his debut. And a few years ago, apparently he made all this racial remarks on social media, 4 or 5 years ago, and he now, and because it's been found out, he's come out and said, I apologize, and I watched his apology. He was not apologetic one bit. And what did the ECB do? They let it lie low for about a month or two, and they now said you can come back. Now, if that had been a black guy, trust me,
that's it.
He's not coming back.
Hung, drawn, quartered.
He's not playing again.
I mean, you can look in the same Met Force right at Scotland Yard there. How many black police officers, assistant commissioners, whether it be 2 or 3, how many of them over the years they have gotten rid of because of some foolishness? When I say foolishness, something less than what is happening now. How many? Yet they can still hold on to their jobs.
Yes. Because when these people were ready to get to you, they'll get to you as Quentin said last week, when they're ready to start digging your rubbish bin. That's what was happening to him, Well, listen, guys, I just want to close on one topic here before we go, and that is, Jamaicans who came to Britain as children faced deportation within days. We know the big discussion, the big debate about the Windrush, and that this shouldn't be happening until that the story and the lessons have been learned. But campaigners are protesting against the deportation flight to Jamaica, and concerned its passengers could be children of Windrush. Those at risk have lived in the UK from childhood, according to Movement for Justice, which is urging for the plane to be stopped. The group is set to protest outside the High Commission of Jamaica on 2 p.m. on Wednesday. I was inquiring before I came on if that took place, but I haven't got no confirmation on that. Now, this is always a controversial topic because many people will say, okay, I hear about the Windrush, but why are they being deported? Who are they? Instead of doing this flagship and this general statement. Should deportation be taking place? Period. Yes or no? I think that's a big question. Once they are here and they commit crimes, they're in this country, they should serve the time. Should deportation be taking place?
Can I say something here? And then yes, I'll shut up after that.
It's all like, me teacher. Yes.
A few months ago, it could have been sometime last year or the year before. I cannot say. I think Channel 4, I believe it was. I'm not sure. Probably Anthony can help me on this, and even you, SYLBOURNE. There was a documentary that was made by a black guy.
Yeah.
It was so well done. I can't see how the black people in this country sat back and never said anything. When the research that he did, part of that research that was documented and came out, which was, and I can't say it verbatim, but it was something like this. Winston Churchill tried to stop a ship coming from the West Indies to the UK. He tried to divert it to Africa because they didn't want him. The greatest war leader that this country, one of the greatest war leaders of this country that everybody looks up to, everybody applauds, and probably he did do some great things. He did say some wonderful things that over the years we have repeated. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall do this and we shall do that. Yet, the very same gentleman tried to stop a ship carrying, let's say, our parents, our people to this country because the mother country called for them. He tried to divert it. Now you tell me this, right? They don't want us here. I'll be as controversial as that. They've never wanted black people here. And they will do whatever it takes to get rid of us, right? So deportations, yes, we can always have arguments for and arguments against. It's sad enough when people were brought here on the Windrush, they came over on their parents' passports.
Yes.
They never thought they needed to have one. And they've been here all their life. They've worked. They've paid their stamps, their NI. And when it comes down to it, they're deported and they have nobody there. But when they come back here, the houses and everything that probably they did have was completely taken away. They knew exactly what they were doing. Believe me, even the very home secretaries of yesteryear, and I don't have to call any names for you to know who I'm talking about. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they never did anything to help.
Anthony, many people have that view. Anthony, what's your take on that? There's a distinction between deportation, but a point that Garry said that they don't want us here, even though we are here, and we are somewhat even a part of the fabric of this nation now.
Well, I'd answer your question first when you said deportation, yes or no. I think if you've committed a crime and you've been found guilty, and part of that punishment is that you'll be deportated, then yes, then you got to go. But if you're someone who's been here, as Garry mentioned as an example, as a Windrush child from your parents, and you came here on their passport, etc. You've lived, worked, contributed, etc. Then for me, there's no way that that individual should be asked to leave. They are, they are born and bred here. They have contributed. They, as Garry had said, they've paid their dues in taxes and all the rest of it. Why should they be asked to leave? Why should they be deported? For me, if you're a criminal and you've done something wrong, as in any other country, and they have a deportation agreement to go back to where you came from, then fine, then deport them. But if it's just people who have been here legitimately and have been working, I see no reason why they should even be considered. They should all, in fact, what the government should be doing is actually they should be saying, oh, we found out that you should have had a passport, you didn't have, we're actually giving you one, not the other way around. And as for Winston Churchill, this is a topic for another conversation, another story, another show, SYLBOURNE. Because we all know that, sadly, yes, Winston Churchill did do a couple of good things. And in fact, I went to Winston Churchill's home, as you know, because it's now a tourist attraction now.
I saw the pictures.
It's a lovely place to visit. But deep down, he was also a racist. Churchill, as Garry has highlighted, did not want black people here. He made, and a lot of the stuff around Churchill, which is negative. If anyone says anything negative about Churchill, they are shot down immediately. They're almost condemned. Don't talk about such a great man. But actually, he did have some significant flaws that we should discuss. But they don't want to hear that. All they want to hear about is we fought on the beaches. That's what they want to hear.
And the bulldog spirit. May Graham said whether they want black people here or not, they don't really have an option. This is because they'll always need black people for work. I just get a couple comments before we wrap up. The Windrush scandal was a 2018 British political scandal concerning people who were wrongly detained, denied legal rights, threatened with deportation, and in at least 83 cases, wrongly deported. May Graham comes back and said, especially due to Brexit, and quite a few Europeans are going back to their native countries, they're going to beg for the Caribbean again for more workers in hospitals, etc. So I guess what I'm picking up is that use me, isn't it? It's a using factor, isn't it, Garry? It's use and discard.
Well,
I want to look at it that way.
I fully agree with what May has said. I believe that we are here. They're going to have to deal with us. What we need to do, I believe that we've got to be more united together as a people. We sometimes are our best enemy because they don't have to do anything to break us down. We do it ourselves, and they laugh while we do it. We've got to have more of a concerted effort to come together to let them know that we are able to do what we have been placed here to do. We are great lawyers, we're great doctors, nurses, engineers, construction workers, my friends.
We think it, we plan it, and we do it now as well.
And to some extent, that's what they're afraid of, because they know once the black man comes together and puts their mind together, we can do it and do it even better than them. Believe me.
Can I just say in closing, SYLBOURNE, I'm a bit surprised that you mentioned about the deportations to Jamaica. I'm a bit surprised that the Jamaican embassy haven't actually come out themselves to actually criticize the British government for deporting people from the Windrush and actually, standing by people over here who have been here legitimately and saying, actually, we're not going to accept them back because they're here legitimately. I'm surprised that Jamaica themselves, the embassy, hasn't come out and done anything vocal. I would have thought they would have had something to say.
Yeah. Well, I've done previous interviews with the High Commission when something similar happened a time ago, and it was a lot of criticism was of the High Commissioner and the fact that they called the police on some of the demonstrators who came into the High Commission, and they were very heavily criticized. And one of the things that they say is that behind the scenes, they're doing a lot of things, because this particular flight, which is going to be going with a particular amount of people, you're going to get feedback eventually saying X amount came off. and then you're going to hear that a lot of work has been done in the background. This is what from the diplomatical circles that they say. I'm just regurgitating.
No. But I think this is where Garry and I are in agreement that we don't want to be in the background. We want to be in the foreground. We want them to be actually the ones who are saying, "Look, stand with us this weekend. We are not in favor of this. Let's come together collectively as a community to actually say this is not happening." But no, in the background, SYLBOURNE, what is that? That's nothing.
That's what we hear. That's what we hear a lot. So that means to say clearly that there need to be being proactive, because as someone said, and as we have been talking about, we are here. We're not going anywhere. Garry, get involved in the system. Anthony, you agree? Political. I mean, people say if you come into politics, you just sort of fall in line and you just do the bidding of the masses. But I think politics play a fundamental role still. That the more of us get in there, the more of us can actually make some changes.
Well, let me say this in closing, because we've been closing for quite a while, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, we've got some brothers, and I'm not going to make any. I think you'll know when I finish what I'm talking about. We've got some brothers that go into in everything in society. They're in every party. And I don't think that they're in there to satisfy the party's needs. I think they're in there for their own needs, which is fine. Because when they get into the corridors of power, they're there and their communities reap the benefits. Where are we? Where are we? Are we in the councils as we should? Are we in the places of authority, such as MPs, as we should? Don't just look at us and say that we must just gather into one party. And if you're not in that party, then I'm not touching you. No, I don't think that is it at all. Let us spread ourselves across the political divide. Let's get involved in the social issues of our communities, wherever you are up and down the country. Let's get in there so that when we then get into the places and stand before the people that we need to stand and make our voices heard, then we're then able to draw down what we need to draw down. The reason why our community is suffering so much, it is because we are not in the places where we should be. And sometimes one of us is there and there's nobody there to back us up. There's nobody there to support us. It's just one lone voice. And then when we finish, they then tick that off. Next item, they don't even take notice. They don't even know that you've come into the place. They just say, next item, any other business closed.
Yes. Good point to wrap up. And Anthony, just close off on your view as to, because there's always, you and I will always talk about, we can raise a problem, we can talk about the problem, we can skirt around the problem, but what is the solution? What is the sort of outlook that we're looking at? And what would you say in closing, Anthony? Finally closing.
In closing, finally closing, and this is the close. This is actually definitely the close. I would say, as a community, we need to think, plan, and do things, and stop actually procrastinating and looking for somebody else to do it for us.
And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, let me do a plug for, and it's a pity I don't have the book there. I think it Plan It, Do It Now. That's a book that you need to get. You can get on Amazon. Anthony, I've got a copy there. Let me just boost it there. Bingo. So the guy's a salesman in it. Guy is so sharp. He's got it right there. As a matter of fact, I've got one of your books right here. Actually. I just realized I do have it. Yes. I think it, Plan It, Do It Now. Get that book there. And it is exactly as what it says. Think it, plan it, do it now. Don't skirt around. I mean, because we've been talking about a lot of things about, yes, demonstration is good. Yes, talking about it is good. But the next step is doing it.
My book is coming.
Huh?
My book is coming.
And there we are. Garry book is coming. And Anthony's going to say to me, and SYLBOURNE, where's your book as well? You know what I mean?
It's stuck. It's stuck.
The Thug. That's the book called The Thug.
Yeah, it's stuck.
Oh, it's stuck. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining today. And thank you, Anthony. And thank you, Garry, for joining and the topics. And thank you so much for your contribution, Michelle and May Graham. And Vita, Ferguson, and Dian, and everyone else, and on Instagram. Please also like and subscribe, and also do respond and share your views as to some of the topics that we spoke about, especially in regards to permission. The permission of parents is going to be revoked for children going up 6 to 17 in getting their vaccine. Just hear your views on that as well. All right, guys. So listen, have a good night. Thank you very much.
See you
Peace
next
out.
time.
Take
Bless
care.
you. God bless.
Take care.
Bless.
Cheers. There. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, just to wrap up now, I want to thank you so much for tonight. And I encourage you to like and subscribe to the SYLBOURNE Show. Those on Instagram, thank you as well. And Saturday night, Talk and Sip. Looking forward to see you there on Instagram live. As for this show, one of the things that I like to encourage is for persons who want to be on this panel. You don't have to be in the UK, because as you can see, the topics we discussed are international as well. We didn't touch on Kamala Harris, and we did not touch on humor in the States, because so much things is happening in the States. It seems funny when Trump is gone, nobody's talking about the States that much, but the States play a fundamental role. But we did touch on Biden saying that persons attending or coming to America need to be vaccinated, which is mandatory. And that is something which people are questioning, because it's like the freedom that persons have is somewhat being eroded each day. Do you feel that? Do you feel that your freedom is being eroded each day? And if that is the case, what are you going to do? As we discussed earlier, roll over and die and just accept? Think about it for a second. Yep. Okay. Have a good night. My name is SYLBOURNE SYDIAL. Peace out. Bye-bye.